For those of you who don't know, I believe everyone knows, but if you don't know, Meddy is a Qatar headquartered and UAE-based doctor booking platform. Recently, Helium Health has acquired Meddy for an undisclosed amount, and as part of the deal, Meddy's CEO Haris and COO Agata will be joining Helium's leadership team, and they will play an integral role in the execution of Helium Health GCC strategy and operations. And I'm super excited that you are both here with me today. We're having Haris Aghadi from Meddy, now HeliumDoc, and we're having Dimeji Sofowara, the co-founder and CFO of Helium Health. Hi, welcome to Startup Grind. Great to meet you, Dimeji. Great to see you again. Haris, how are you?
We're doing good.
Hi, hi, Dan.
Okay. Just a quick note for our audience that after the questions that our team has prepared for our guests, we'll also have room for questions from the audience. So if you want to ask anything, just please make sure to submit that. I think we have a chat. Sharmin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the chat is the right place, right? Unless we have a Q&A feature. No, I think the chat. So yeah, guys, please, if you have anything, just make sure to post your questions. Great. So I want to start with something that to me seemed a bit unusual, like from a geographic perspective, because Africa and the GCC, they rarely overlap in tech. And, 2 years ago when we were talking with Haris about scaling operations, we were talking obviously about the UAE, we were talking about the adjacent GCC countries, but the African market surprised me. And I wanted to ask Haris, was Africa ever on your roadmap? Did you anticipate that?
I mean, I would be lying if I say that we did, but we did not, honestly. No, we were not looking at Africa for sure. I mean, yeah, I'm not even sure at the moment, like, how did the connection actually happen? Like, I think me and Goke were chatting with each other on LinkedIn through some posts that we had mutual friends in. And then I think the conversation kind of got stirred on. And then it occurred to me that they were funded by Global Ventures, which is a Dubai-based fund. And then when we started talking to Helium, they had just visited Dubai like a couple of weeks back because they were scouting the market for their own product. And that's where conversation kind of, led on, and we started having more and more deeper conversation. And, here we are today.
Okay. Great. And how did you, because my next question, you almost answered it already, because I was about to ask you, how did you come across Helium Health, or was it Helium Health that approached Meddy? But guys, I want to know more about the story. I want to know whose ideas was it to join forces. Dimeji, you're the CFO of Helium Health. Was it your idea to proceed with such an acquisition?
So I would say, I wouldn't say it was personally my idea. Like Haris said, the conversation already sort of started with Haris and Goke, who is also a co-founder and the CEO of Helium Health. So that was where it breeded from. And then when it made sense to us and it clicked out, exploring the GCC as a market, because we'll spend some time in the region, looking for a live, some of our products we thought we could, deploy there, but we're not sure exactly how we would approach it. And even our appointment booking product that we had in our roadmap, we hadn't, scaled that. So when we came across Meddy, we realized, okay, there's some synergy. Why not explore further and see if an acquisition would be the best to penetrate in the market.
Okay. Well, Dimeji, I've had a look at what Helium Health is doing, and I know that you guys are like the core of your business is, correct me if I'm wrong, is electronic medical records and hospital management solutions in 6 African countries. And over the years, since 2016, you've been evolving in a more like horizontal way to offer other services, including a billing and payment system, right? Helium Pay and a loan product, Helium Credit, and other services. And I'm curious, how do existing Meddy goals, how does it fit into your health, into the Helium Health vision?
What do you mean by existing medicals? I didn't get that aspect of the question, sorry.
So I was talking about the scope of your services, that it's a very horizontal approach, and there is so much from core electronic medical records through hospital management solutions, loan products, payment products, and so on. And I was wondering how do Meddy goals, the goals of Meddy, of Helium, now HeliumDoc, with booking visits, how does it fit into your Helium Wealth vision?
Okay, Meddy's goals. Okay, yes. So because when we at Helium Health, in terms of exploring different business products, so it expanded to our billing solution, and then financing deficit in the market, we decided to start Helium Credit, which is the loan outside of the business. And then so Meddy at the time is as an appointment booking platform primarily. We as Helium Health, we had considered that as a product to offer to the market, but within the capacity that was stretched, so we sort of left on the back burner, and so it was always on our roadmap. But then when we came across Meddy and we saw that this aligns a lot with our goals, we decided, okay, you know what, instead of starting afresh, why don't we merge the teams and product, and then use the resources already on ground to then penetrate the new market that we were considering, but also get a new product and develop further on it to have this business line that we're going to work together to drive forward our regions. So the goals fit properly for us at the time.
Haris, would you like to add anything to that? How does it look from Meddy's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at both the companies, I think especially in healthcare, because healthcare is very broad. You have way too many stakeholders, from patients, payers, governments, insurance companies, and whatnot, right? So whenever you're building any single product, it's not enough to have a singular thing. You need to have one product, but you need to touch as many people in the healthcare value chain, right? And that's exactly the reason why this synergy kind of made sense, because with our product, Helium Health gets to offer doctor bookings to their existing providers, and we can take their EMR product and sell it to our existing clients who are unhappy with their EMRs or do not have an EMR. And that's where the strong synergy happens. So we're kind of selling each other's products in our respective markets so that we can increase the lifetime value of our existing customers.
Great, makes sense. Guys, I read on TechCrunch that according to the founders of both companies, your teams are identical in terms of operations, technology execution, culture, and market price points, and these similarities made it easy for you to sign off the deal in a super short period of time, because I think it was less than 4 months. I want to know more about it. Tell me about that. Tell me about those 4 months. Was it all smooth and easy, or there were some challenges? Dimeji, you're laughing. I wanna know. I wanna know the story.
No, I mean, of course, there would always be challenge. I don't think anything good that comes to you comes that easy. I mean, please let me know if you disagree, but yeah, overall, I would say it was a smooth process, and I think what made it smooth was because one of the things we look for, and I'm sure Haris will agree with me here, is the culture of both teams. We knew immediately we fit at the culture, because acquisitions are never easy, right? And the primary thing that affects these deals are usually poor culture fits. But what we realized, speaking with the Meddy team, the CEO, and the rest of the team, was we could these are people that we can build a long-term relationship with, and everything fell to us, pretty easily, because we could know the long term strategy aligned, the team aligned culture as well, and also for the domain expertise. It went without saying, because they had proven, over the years, that this is something that they're experts in, and they can scale further. And with all of that, we knew that, okay, this was the right thing for us, because everything was aligned.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add to that. As he pretty much said, is I think it was very surprising when we started having initial calls on how identical is the way we look at the healthcare in these markets and how we think about strategy. And that's where, the conversation from let's have a partnership to let's join forces happened very quickly, because we saw eye to eye on how we want to operate the market, how we want to run the businesses, and how we want to align our forces. So yeah, the cultures were very much identical, and that's what really helped, kind of close the deal in 3-4 months time, because usually M&As takes significantly longer than that. So yeah, because our businesses were the way we operate, the psychology, the way we structure our numbers and everything made so much sense that it really helped us to just kind of move fast on that.
Mm-hmm. Did you consider any other mergers or joining forces with other companies in the past, or was it the first time that you felt, okay, this is it?
Yeah, I mean, as an independent company, you always had opportunities in the past, and we definitely looked at multiple companies, but it was always very passively. It never made sense, because I think there were a bunch of things that we were thinking about. One big thing that we always wanted to see is that how does our business line complements the company that we are either M&A we're joining forces with. EMR is a business that Meddy we intimately looked at. We really wanted to have an EMR solution inside our company, but building an EMR requires years and years of R&D. It's a massive, significant cost, and it's a completely different line of business. And since our experience working with so many healthcare providers, we saw intimately how bad experiences they had with this, how disappointed they were, and how there is such a big need for EMR. So when we started having conversations with Helium Health and we looked at the product and we saw how they executed it, it made really a lot of sense that it's much better to join forces with them and immediately sell that product to our market instead of actually building it ourselves. And I think it's the same mindset, probably Dimeji, you guys looked at it from a doctor bookings perspective.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. We looked at it from that perspective, and even before Meddy, we had done a lot of research. We had explored acquisition with a different company as well. But like I said, the different things are in alignment, and if that doesn't work, culture especially, then it's not going to move forward. And even if you move forward down the line, you're going to face issues. So we knew that, okay, everything aligned to this point before agreeing to it.
Mm-hmm. And does it mean that HeliumDoc will now also be present in all the same countries as Helium Health, or you guys are still focusing on the GCC and gradual expansion? What is the roadmap now? Did it change?
I'll take a stab at it. I think Dimeji can elaborate on that. So no, I think we're going to go in parallel for both the regions. So we're going to take the Meddy/HeliumDoc product and immediately try to get into Africa. We're actually already working on localizing the product for Nigeria and Uganda, and we're going to have it live in the next few weeks. And similarly, we are already having conversations with our clients in Qatar and UAE for the EMR product, and we're going to have that live as well. So that's the main reason we did it, because we can run both the regions parallelly and grow much, much faster together rather than doing it independently.
Yep, 100% agree with that.
Great. And I'm curious if, as a result of this merger, there are any features that Meddy's patients will now have access to straight away. I know that probably long term it's gonna grow, and you're gonna capitalize on that wide scope of services offered by Helium Health. But in the very near future, in the GCC market, me as a client of Meddy, will I get access to some new features, some new services because of that because of the joint forces. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think in early Q1 of next year, we're trying to focus on a bunch of things for the market. One thing we're going to make a big focus on is on personal health records. One big issue that we have seen with a lot of patients is that their health records are pretty much tied up with every single clinic that they go to, and they have to email or call the clinic to get access to their own medical records. And now once we join forces, we can have them able to see their own personal health records, their medical reports, their x-rays on their app itself. So that basically makes it very easy for them to have access to their own records. Then we're massively improving our product from performance perspective to adding a whole bunch of doctors. And we're working on a big discounts and loyalty product so that patients can, look at cosmetic stuff that is usually not covered by health insurance. So they can get access to a wide variety of discounts for cosmetic treatments. And that's going to be a game changer for us because we've seen a whole bunch of patients constantly keep asking us for that. So that is something we're working on. And, in the long term, there's going to be a whole bunch of things we'll be doing. We're going to be making a massive investment in the region itself to actually grow the product line, both from a B2B perspective and the B2C side as well.
Okay, that's great. That sounds exciting. Looking forward to it. Guys, I'm curious if you have any advice for our attendees who might be also entrepreneurs, how to approach such a deal, how to approach an acquisition, how to look for companies that are compatible, and how to start the conversation. Is there any checklist that you could recommend to start with?
Yeah, I think I can give maybe a seller's perspective, and maybe Dimeji can give a buyer's perspective. So I don't like giving general advices because every situation is highly nuanced and highly contextual. But I can give you the mental model that we as Meddy, our board members and executive team went through. I think the first thing we looked at is complementary business models. We were doing doctor bookings. We wanted to do EMR. Helium Health was doing Helium Health. They were doing EMR, but they want to do doctor booking. So that fit was happening very much quickly. Second thing we looked at is that how does joining forces help us capture much bigger share of the market, and can we capture it more quickly if we join forces together? So can we go faster as combined together as compared to doing independently? Third thing, as Dimeji has pointed out, culture was a big thing. A lot of M&A deals fall apart because the cultures don't align for the teams. And that was something that we definitely looked at. And then fourth, we looked at, in terms of product, how do our products complement each other? Is there a very strong synergy between our products? And can we capture a bigger part of the healthcare value chain? I think that was the most important thing for us. We wanted to touch as many different stakeholders as possible. So that really made it happen. And I think the last, of course, we also looked at shareholder value, how does our investors being shareholders in Helium Health is beneficial for them in the long term compared to being shareholders in Meddy, because now with joining forces, we're making a much bigger impact in significantly bigger markets. We're going for touching lives of people in Qatar and UAE to touching lives of people in 7-8 different countries in Africa. So it just massively changes the game for us, and the impact that we can make is probably on a multiples of 30 to 40x. So it's a completely different ball game that we can be playing with this M&A. So I think that's the way we looked at it, and Helium Health perfectly fit on that checklist. But as I said, the checklist varies differently for different companies. So that's a mental model that we had that made sense. I mean, I'll let Dimeji talk about how they were thinking when looking at Meddy and other companies.
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of overlap between what you said, how we see things as well. Okay, so for us, I think we sort of look at it around 4 to 5 pillars as well. So we look at the product, right, that are able to by our suite of products. So granting us new access to product that either we've thought about or to think about. So we look at product as an angle, and then we also look at market penetration. So is this a new market we're trying to penetrate, or is this we need to have growth in, and maybe for some reason we haven't seen headway in that market? So can this acquisition help us drive further growth in that market? Then third, the people, which also relates to the culture, and then the domain expertise of. So culture needs to everyone needs to work together, needs to come together and know how they can work together and see if this is a relationship we can build on, and also the expertise of the people as well. if we're going to join forces and if we're looking to penetrate a new market, then of course the new product team should have the expertise required to do this. Everyone needs to have the necessary skills, the specialized skills that they require to help make this acquisition, penetrate the market further. And then market consolidation, because healthcare market consolidation as very vital, not just to the industry as a whole, but for all the companies that are involved. So consolidation key players to increase the value proposition is very important in acquisitions. And then finally, I would say expanding geographical reach, not just a new market or existing market penetration, but expanding the geography. So for now we're not just limiting ourselves to Africa. The initial vision was to expand beyond Africa, across the emerging markets. So this helps to have a more focus into the GCC. So all of them to come together, at a huge value proposition, not just for us, but for the team we're acquiring as well.
Great, thank you guys. Haris, I'm curious if from your perspective, do you think that there is a right moment to look for such a collaboration, for joining forces? Like, is there a recommended time of a recommended stage of maturity of growth of the startup when you think that basically being acquired by another company can be most beneficial?
Yeah, so I don't think we were thinking that is M&A a right thing for us. I think the way we were thinking is that what's our end goal, right? We were looking at is that how can we go after a much bigger addressable market? As Dimeji said, we were working in GCC and GCC is great, but we were looking at, okay, is there a much bigger market that we can go after, right? And Africa would be a good place to go after. But if we're going after Africa, that means we have to raise money, we have to make a significant investment in R&D, change the product, and a lot of those things. So we were like, if we want to get there, maybe M&A would be a faster route to get there, right? So that's the way we were thinking about it. So it's hard to say what is the right moment for it. I think one way to looking at it would be like, I think every startup needs to have a pretty decent product and be a market leader in their own respective markets. And once they have captured that, and now they're looking at international expansion, as you said, they're divesting and they're looking at consolidating the market or looking at a new product vertical that they haven't touched before. In that case, they can look at it as, okay, is it a value? Is it viable for us to build it ourselves or do it ourselves instead of, I don't know, partnering with someone, licensing their technology and doing a full-on M&A with them. So I think that's the way people should looking at it instead of just thinking like, I want to get acquired or M&A is the right thing for me. I think it's always about how does M&A help you get to somewhere where you want to go.
Thank you, Haris. Just a comment to our audience that I think I have activated the Q&A tab. I think it should be working. So you can submit your questions there. You can also submit them in the chat, and we'll be replying to all your questions. We had one question earlier from Mohammed Safwat that Dimeji already answered on the chat. What is EMR? But maybe Dimeji, you can tell us more, because not all our it's not something that people who are not too much in health tech maybe hear every day. So if you could tell us more about your services.
Sure thing. So for EMR is electronic medical records. But what this means on the is a software that helps to become digital and collecting the hospital record, the patient records from the moment a patient steps into a hospital, the moment the patient leaves. All of that patient flow is recorded on the EMR platform. So everything from your social contact info when you come, vital nurses desk, to your medical encounters with the doctors. For us on our platform, the doctors can customize the forms based on how they interact. They have a form builder, so they just, when they see the patient, they go through these checklists or questions that they ask. So from go to clinical investigations where the lab results are uploaded, and then you can go to the prescription side where your the pharmacy gives you the drug that the doctor has recommended. So all of that flow is recorded on the EMR platform, and then when it gets to the billing aspect, the invoicing is required is uploaded as well. So once the payment comes through, it's recorded as paid. So the end is what the EMR platform covers.
Great, thanks, Dimeji. Haris, a question for you. I was very surprised a few weeks ago. I'm receiving those messages from Meddy on Instagram, and suddenly, like, I see that the branding is the same, but there is this new name. And I'm wondering if you had any concerns about changing your name, because Meddy is, it sounds so cute, and we all know what Meddy is, especially here on that local market here in Doha, and I think in the UAE as well. Did you have any concern? Were you concerned about changing the brand name?
Yeah, I mean, of course, obviously, I think the entire team had like a whole bunch of emotional attachment to the brand name itself, because you worked on it for so many years. And I think last week or week before that, we were actually working on rebranding it. So it was a very emotional moment. Yes, I think there are definitely some downsides to any decision that you make, but I think we were looking at it from an international perspective, that we're not just a Qatar or GCC based thing. We're now trying to build an international product for that. And the HeliumDoc brand name kind of, becomes consistent with the other terminology that Helium Health has with Helium Pay, Helium Credit, Helium EMR, and whatnot. And, we're going to have a whole bunch of other products that we'll be launching soon for marketing solutions for providers and whatnot. So, we had to make things very consistent with our product topology. So that's why we actually rebranded it. But yeah, for sure, we definitely kind of remissed the name a bit. But I think eventually, patients need to understand that we're going to be, with the new brand name, we'll be offering a lot more features and a lot more services that we were unable to offer before, because now we will be making a heavy investment into the product itself to dramatically enhance the patient experience.
Because right now I see just the name change, the branding is more or less the same in terms of colors and visual elements. Are you long-term planning to fully go away from the Meddy style that you had worked on over the past year?
It's still too early to say. I think we're looking at multiple options for now. We don't have any immediate plans, but we may. The option is open at the moment, but we don't have any concrete plans on that at the moment. I think we're a little too focused on consolidating the teams and actually expanding our products into the respective markets. So eventually we'll come to that point soon enough.
Great. I'm sorry, I'm a designer, so like these aspects, even if not directly related to startup grind, I always need to some more sneaky.
Well, we understand. We had a lot of sleepless nights on this, debating on these pros and cons.
It's an emotional connection, no? I mean, I get that as a designer, but I can imagine that it's the same for the owner of the brand, or the people who worked on it. So. Yeah, we have some great questions coming from the audience. So let's maybe jump into that. A question from Haifa Al-Abdullah. The question is to Haris. First, congratulations. I know you focused on the exit, but my question goes back in time. How did you manage to persevere and expand despite the big challenges you face? Blockade, COVID, and so on.
Yeah, that's a great question. I always tell this story where we literally incorporated the company in Dubai literally a day after the blockade, right? So I was in Dubai just going to the registrar's office to signing the documents, and then we hear this news and everything. For sure, there were a whole bunch of challenges with the blockade. It definitely took a toll on our budgets and how we think about marketing and expanding into different markets. It was definitely a difficult time, but we kind of prosper because at the end of the day, if you have a great product, people if it's solving a problem, people will buy for it and actually use it. So it's completely irrelevant to politics and whatever it's happening at that nation level. So if you have a great product, I don't think you have to really worry about those many things. Just keep focusing on making sure that your product is solving the right problem, and actually it's actually helping them make better decisions or improving their lives. So I think that really helped with that. With COVID, yes, I think COVID was a big disruption to our business. Our revenues completely got destroyed in the first few months, but that also pushed us to launch a telemedicine product within the few weeks that saw very decent adoption. So I think it was kind of somewhat of a blessing in a disguise, because we got some adoption on the telemedicine product. And one big change that happens, on at least on the providers level, is that they came to the realization that the EMRs that they have or the products that they have are not enough, and they need to massively change the level of care that they provide to the patients. So that massively changed the way they think about technological solutions, how they want to have a better websites, they want to have better apps, they want to have instant appointments, they want to allow their patients to access their medical records themselves and whatnot. So once that happened, we came to the realization that, hey, we definitely need EMR, because now there's a much bigger market for that. And hence now with Helium Health, I think that really expedited the conversation as well. So I think COVID in a way kind of helped us in one way or the other.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge, right? But it was also such a blessing in disguise and such an acceleration for many digital technologies, health tech included. So remote work, different kinds of remote collaborations. I feel the world is much smaller after those challenging couple of years.
Yeah, Dimeji, you want to talk about it? I think you guys saw like extraordinary growth in last year, right, during COVID.
Yeah, so for us, because when COVID hit, I mean, no one was coming, and we decided to also build out our telemedicine platform, because it's something we had left in the back burner for a while, just like the appointment booking as well. But once COVID hit and people stopped going physically to the hospital, we decided, okay, let's accelerate the telemedicine platform. So we released that to the market, and also we also decided to work with the state in building out our COVID response as well. So it had negative effects in terms of patient flow in hospitals, but also we're able to adapt and not only build out new products, but also is the expansion of our current products.
Great, thank you, Dimeji. Another question from Emeka this time. Can you talk about HeliumDoc market segment and its defensibility, especially in African market?
Dimeji, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that one. Yeah, so like I said, this appointment booking is something that we had considered for a while, and I think we needed to really focus on it and have a dedicated team that would build it out and tailor it to the African market. So when Meddy, this is the opportunity. We already have the product that is there. All we need to do now is to tailor it to the African market. So that sort of made things more straightforward for us and easy in terms of, okay, you know what, we don't need to channel more resources or new resources into building out this product. We have the product now. All we need to do is to, because the nuances in the African market, right? All we need to do is to target those nuances. So that's all we have to focus on now. And culture of doctors, of like hospital management, so would put resources into managing that aspect as opposed to the entire aspect. So we see it as a big advantage because we can leverage on the learning from the GCC market as well, because there's some similarities there as well. So leverage from the learnings that Haris's team have and also the current product, and then we'll transfer that to the African market.
Thanks, Dimeji. The next question is from Dina. Dina, congrats, Haris and the team. Are you planning to expand in Arab African countries as well, like Egypt and so on?
Yeah, I mean, not any immediate plans yet, but I think we're definitely looking at, right now we're focused on sub-Saharan Africa, but for sure, North Africa is a huge market, especially as that it's an African Arab market. So there's a lot of similarities between GCC and that market. So we definitely will look at that eventually.
A question from Being You. Hello, Abdullah from Being You here. Thanks for the intriguing fireside chat. I have a question to both Haris and Dimeji. What's your vision for both HeliumDoc and Helium Health for the next 10 years, respectively?
Dimeji, you want to talk about Helium Health's vision?
Okay, yeah, sure. So for us, when we started off, it wasn't just AMR, right? It was to become the number one health tech company in not just Africa but in the emerging markets. And we see that we've already reached that five year mark. And for the next 5 years is to cement ourselves as that number one in emerging markets. And also, who knows, we can be the number one in just most parts of the world as well. But primarily, we're trying to consolidate the healthcare sector in the emerging markets, and this involves all the product lines that we have right now. And as we expand it, we then know that apart from being product heavy, we're also trying to have the data that will then help us improve not just the government relations, giving insights to government to improve the healthcare sector, but also pharmaceutical companies, donor agencies. So for us, it's much more than providing healthcare products, but also in helping the entire healthcare stakeholder ecosystem. And that we believe we would have implemented in the next 10 years.
For us, I think, as Meddy, our vision has always been to become the go-to place for healthcare information. So I think our idea was not to build a doctor booking product. But the way we looked at it is like, what is the most pressing problems patients face in Qatar and UAE, right? So it starts from, if people have a stomach ache or a chest pain, they usually Google their symptoms, they land on a website, they read medical content, then they realize they need a specialist, so they go find information on which one is the best specialist around them, and then they book an appointment. So we looked at each of those touch points and actually tried to build a product out of it. So our idea is not just to build a doctor booking product. We want in the next 5-7 years is that whenever people think of anything health related, anything health, and we want them to be using HeliumDoc for that. So we still want to be the primary place for healthcare information, either when it comes to accessing your medical records, to finding best doctors, to getting a prescription delivered, anything around patient-doctor interaction, and we want to be the bridge between that.
That's great. Fingers crossed. We have a few more questions. Questions from Suhail Ahmed. What are the challenges you faced as a startup in the GCC? How did you conquer them? How supportive are the governments in the GCC? And any advice for budding entrepreneurs in utilizing any government initiatives?
Well, that's a very broad question. I'm not sure how to tackle that. I can answer the second part of the question. I think in the last 3-4 years, if you just look at Qatar, the ecosystem of startups and innovation has dramatically changed. You have 3-4 accelerators, incubators, so many funding programs that did not exist when Meddy was starting up. So now I would recommend that if you're starting up, you have so many different options to utilize to keep your burn rate low, to take advantage of the help that government is providing through QBIC, QSTP, ICD Qatar, DIC. There is just so many right now, right? And for any vertical that you're targeting, the government is definitely very, very supportive of just, encouraging entrepreneurship in the country and the region per se. I think every country in the GCC is opening up. They want this to become a massive job creations. They want to diversify from, hydrocarbon and oil and gas, and this could be a new way for companies to create, job creation. So I think government is definitely doing a fantastic job. And ecosystem is developed quite a bit. So I would recommend highly to go through an incubator to actually, test your product and find product market fit before you kind of scale up your operations. Challenges, yeah, for sure. Investment scene is still fairly, in their early stages, because Qatar and GCC is a fairly small market if you look at it from a broader perspective. So funding is still fairly nascent, but you have indirect ways of funding happening. If you just look at the last 2 years, the amount of money that startups in Qatar have raised is more than the last 5 years combined. So that means you are in a very good trajectory. If you just pull out the data from Magnet that they're publishing in partnership with QDB, it's pretty fascinating. It's not something anyone would have forecasted if had you asked me like 4 years ago what would happen. So things have changed quite a bit in terms of setting up a company, incorporating a company, hiring people, licensing technologies and whatnot. So challenges definitely exist, but I don't see them any different from any other market that you're going to go operate in. It's just you have to cut through them and keep at it.
Thanks, Haris. A question from Rami Soliman. Congratulations to both of you and all the best in the future. How did your relationship start? And what recommendations do you have for startups who are working with similar companies? I think we've touched a bit upon that, but if you could just quickly summarize for Rami.
Yeah, so I think me and Goke, the CEO of Helium Health, we connected on LinkedIn somehow. I don't remember who started that, probably me, but I can't remember. It was a while ago. So, we started talking, and then, one thing led to the other. We started having more conversations, and then Helium Health was looking at Dubai. They had just visited Dubai because one of their big investors is from them, and they were looking at getting, penetrating the EMR market. And, one thing led to the other, and we started having more meaningful conversations around how can we partner, form an alliance, look into M&A and whatnot. So that's how the bridge happened. In terms of advice, I think we already mentioned that, look at complementary business models, look at do the cultures align? Can you grow faster if you join forces? I think that's one really big one, right? A lot of people think M&A is the fastest way to growth, but not necessarily. If your business models don't complement each other, if there is no synergy between products, it's going to slow you down more than you being independent. So you have to be really thoughtful about it. Like, is this the fastest way to grow and significantly increase your shareholder value?
Thanks, Haris. A question from Raed Qtaish. Congrats, Haris and the team. Do you have any plan to sell medical hardware devices for your platform in the future?
I don't think so. I don't think we're looking at hardware at the moment. It's a very different market. Dimeji, any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, the hardware is in. I mean, I can see a 10-year roadmap. There's selling hardware right there. So
maybe we should add it just to freak out Dami,
Okay, a few more questions from me then. I think we exhausted most of the questions, all the questions from the audience. We will have one more about challenges you face as a startup in the GCC, but I think that you've touched upon that a few times already. Guys, are there any other complementary services you're looking into for further, expansion? Maybe some upcoming mergers, acquisitions. Dimeji, do you have anything on your roadmap? What's next after acquiring Meddy? Maybe we have any interesting companies in the audience, and they are just like waiting for you to mention their products.
We're always open to companies that help in terms of aligning to our future plans and product offerings and penetration strategies as well. So of course we're always in the market for that, and there are a few companies that we'll keep looking out for, and we're open to new companies reaching out to us, and would also do our research. So yeah, this is I'll say this is in the last we would be doing as Helium Health as a whole, and with Meddy joining us as HeliumDoc now, it further expands the opportunities to also get more companies that would have visions.
Haris, tell me, are you relocating to Nigeria for some time to be closer to the team at Helium Health and to align, on strategy and?
Yeah, see, that's a good question. I think one thing we always tell people is that the big reason why this happened is because both the companies are pretty much fully remote as much as possible. So it doesn't really matter where we are as long as, the work is getting done. So, I'm still going to be between Doha and Dubai. Our team is flying to Nigeria soon for a strategy offsite. So we're going to be spending a lot of time with the greater Helium team for the retreat and stuff with, 2022 planning. But we don't see any relocations because GCC is still a big focus for us, and there's like a lot of stuff we're doing, but the team is fairly remote. I'm guessing Dimeji spends more time in airport terminals than any other place, I would say.
We got another question from Imeka. Does doctor booking platform entail any regulatory oversight? We didn't talk much about the legislation challenges, but I guess that might be quite a big part of the challenges of health tech, right? And of scaling into different markets.
Yeah, healthcare regulations vary quite a bit depending on which country you're going after, and we spend quite a lot of time with the legal and compliance to make sure that we're abiding by the local and international healthcare laws. Just to give you more context, when we launched our telemedicine product last year during COVID, we were the first product in Qatar and probably one of the first few in the region itself that was compliant by local and international laws, fully encrypted, compliant with HIPAA and whatnot, and that really got a lot of these big healthcare providers comfortable using our product because they hadn't seen anything like that in quite some time that abides by local and international law. So definitely that is a big part of our focus. And this is especially healthcare, probably the most valuable data that you can possibly think of. So we do quite a spend time making sure that we're abiding by all the local laws and following the best security practices and whatnot. Dimeji, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, 100%. And even for us, when we started as Helium Health, before even building out any product, we looked into the global privacy policies and data protection and all the regulatory models that we would have to face. And because the Nigerian market at the time was pretty new to this as well, so there wasn't any proper regulation that we had to follow. This came on in subsequent years, but we decided to stay ahead of the curve and become HIPAA compliant and follow data protection regulations in the US and also looking at the European markets as well. So ensuring that if anything comes up, we're ready, and as we're expanding to new markets as well, we would know that all that we need to do is to tailor our policies to fit into the market and not start afresh.
Thank you. You've mentioned in one of your interviews that that interoperability is a huge challenge in the region. And Haris, could you talk a bit how the solution, HeliumDoc, how does it solve those challenges?
Yeah, for sure. If you look at EMRs or any other solution that a lot of these healthcare providers are using, it's very common for them to use 5 different solutions from 5 different vendors for various different needs. Marketing has a solution, sales has a solution, purchasing and logistics is using something, clinicals is using something else, right? So they're using 5 different solutions. None of them talk to each other because there is no standard that they oblige by. So data is siloed, and because of that, the decision makers are making ill-informed decisions because they do not have context or full picture around it. So when they're using like an HIS or an EMR provided by Helium Health, we consolidate everything into one single place. And then our doctor booking product, which is now HeliumDoc, is fully integrated with the Helium EMR product. So now there is no interoperability issues because everything is in sync with each other. All the data is being shown everywhere to healthcare providers and the patients itself. So the issue of interoperability, we definitely solve that, and we hope to create a new standard for even the competitors to kind of oblige by, because we want to move to open healthcare. We want to make the data very much open to anyone. We don't want data to be locked into any systems, right? And we want to create a standard that entire industry can abide by, because it still kind of sucks that we're in 21st century and we still do not have proper standards that everyone want to live by, because they want to silo the data and they want to lock that in, and they want to prevent other companies to build on top of it. And we definitely do want to change that.
That's really interesting, the open healthcare. Did you try to approach any health organizations to tackle that issue?
If you just look at UAE has passed a legislation last year in Healthcare Information Exchange, which basically links up all the data from EMRs to one single repository. So that means if a patient is moving from one hospital to another hospital, the data moves with that patient. So the data is not locked into another hospital and kind of stuck away there. So I think Qatar is going to do the same thing, and we're trying to change that as well. We want to be the catalyst that kind of changes that and brings that new product in the market. So we're definitely looking at that. I'm pretty sure Dimeji and the team is doing something similar in Nigeria to create a healthcare information exchange where data, it kind of moves in the cloud with the patient and it's not locked into any single place.
That's great. That sounds really fantastic. A question from Mohammed Safwat. How do you plan to leverage the upcoming World Cup 2022 in Qatar?
Yeah, we have some really interesting plans. I'm afraid we're not at the liberty to share that. We have something really exciting working on. So hopefully we'll reveal that soon enough.
Great. Guys, any more questions from our audience? You can submit your questions in the chat in the Q&A section. While we're waiting for some final questions, guys, Dimeji, Haris, do you have any advice for our community, for our startup grind community? I guess it's mainly entrepreneurs and people who are looking into founding their startups. Any advice you would like to share?
Dimeji, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, let me go first. So I would say, I mean, there's always problems to solve, and at this stage that we are as a country or continent, and wherever we are, any problem can be solved with technology. I think any problem can be solved with technology, or most problems can be solved with technology, right? So it's about finding the problem that you want to solve and just go for it. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, and it might not make sense to you at the time, but if you dive in, anything can happen. For me, I didn't think I was going to end up in tech. I mean, I studied law at university. I practiced as a lawyer for a bit. I got some experience, working Goldman Sachs, which is finance as well. So it's like, oh, so how did you end up in tech? Well, for me, I'm always looking for new challenges, problems. And when the idea for this came up, because me and Go came, the CEO, we went to secondary school together. That's high school in Nigeria, and we had always maintained a relationship after. And even though I went to the UK for school and went to the US, we're always trying to solve problems with technology, because he's more technical, but for me, I'm more on the operational side. So I do all the I like to say I do all the boring stuff. So anytime I see like new problems and that can be solved with technology, I get it, and I don't try to I don't think, oh, I don't have experience in this, so I'm not gonna do it. I think anyone can basically solve any problem. And also the main thing is also surrounding yourself with a team, and a strong team, because that helps. Like for me, it's like, okay, I don't know a lot of these things, but if we have a team that has the expertise to drive this forward, then that solves 90% of your problem. So it's just about going for the solution that you want to solve, and then surrounding yourself with a great team, and everything else will fall into place.
For me, I don't have anything unique. I think one thing I would just say to people is like, just get started. Like that's literally my advice to people. I think the big issue that I see with a lot of people who want to start companies is that they fall for analysis paralysis. They spend months, if not years, just trying to figure everything out. And I keep telling them, you will never figure out everything. We're still trying to figure stuff out, right? You cannot know everything when you're starting. You just have to get started. That initial hurdle is probably the biggest challenge that prevents people becoming founders. Like, I mean, if you talk to 100 people, I would assume 90 people want to start their own companies, but out of those 100, maybe one or two will actually end up starting a company because they crossed that hurdle. It's just because people are spending way too much time trying to figure everything out, making sure everything is perfect before they launch. But there is no such thing as perfect. So my advice is like, just get started and have, as Dimeji said, have like strong team, especially with complementary skill sets. So if you're in business, find a techie, and if you're a techie, find a guy in business or marketing or a designer. Have a complementary skill set team, and you just get started, and you will figure it out as you go along. You don't have to figure out everything from day one.
Yeah, 100%. Because I remember when, like a couple years after we started, one of our first hospitals that we signed up to use our AMR platform, they came up to us and they're like, "Oh, like you guys really used us as guinea pigs, in the early years." Because we look back and we saw what they're using, and I mean, compared to what it is now, we're like, well, sorry, but but we just had to dive into the market at that point, and taking all the learnings. And I mean, you would improve as long as what you have as a base solves a unique problem. You can always improve on that.
Sorry, Agata, I think you're mute.
Thanks, Haris. I think that's a proper design thinking approach, right? That you refine along the way, but first you solve the basic problem and you learn and you just continue iterating and improving. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I think it was very insightful, and again, congratulations. It's great news, and we're looking forward to see what this new collaboration will bring, and how HeliumDoc will start offering more and more services. Charmaine, I'm passing the mic back to you. Would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you to our speakers, Haris and Dimeji. There was such a fruitful session. Our audience definitely enjoyed. I can see all the questions, all the beautiful questions. So thank you so much for your time. Agata, for being an excellent moderator at today's event. Thank you. And yes, for the Startup Grind event, we shall be back next month. And this session is recorded and it will go up on YouTube. So you guys can watch it anytime. And yeah, guys, that's it for today's event.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.